All right, ready for a deep dive?
Always.
Today, we're heading to France. Well, sort of.
Hello.
We're looking at this article from a French Christian website called Fréquence Chrétienne. It's titled The Right Attitudes to Adopt in Church.
Church etiquette, huh? Sounds
Yeah.
specific.
Yeah, but honestly, I think there's something here for everyone, even if you aren't a regular churchgoer.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What kind of stuff are we talking about?
Well, it gets into the nitty-gritty of how to behave in church, but it's really a window into the social dynamics of a community. The psychology of belief, even. Might even find some unexpected life lessons tucked in there.
I like where this is going. Hit me with some highlights.
Okay, so right off the bat, the article jumps into attending church every Sunday. It's presented as, like, the cornerstone of spiritual growth. They even compare it to, get this, attending medical school to become a doctor.
Whoa, that's a pretty serious commitment. I mean, I get that regular practice is important, but is showing up every Sunday really that crucial?
Right. It's not just about showing up, though. It's about consistent practice, like an apprenticeship for your faith. But get this, that the article goes even further and says that just reading the Bible and praying at home, well, it's not enough.
Hmm. Why not, though? I mean, isn't that kind of the core of personal faith?
Yeah, and that's what makes this so interesting. I think it speaks to that human need for connection. Like, we're social creatures, right?
Absolutely. We crave belonging.
And religious communities, they naturally provide that kind of built-in framework, a support system.
I see. You're not just learning about your faith in isolation, you're experiencing it with others, sharing rituals, traditions.
Right. It's like, think about studying a language textbook versus actually immersing yourself in the culture where you have to speak and interact.
You absorb so much more through that shared experience, definitely. So what else is in this etiquette guide?
Oh, this is fun. It gets into the dress code. Dress soberly, it says. Avoid anything flashy or revealing.
Soberly? What does that even mean? I feel like that could be interpreted in so many ways.
Yeah, and I think that's where cultural context comes in. What's considered sober in one place might be totally different somewhere else. I mean, when you hear that word, what comes to mind?
Hmm. I guess I picture something understated, maybe a little conservative. But, I can also see how it could be about just being respectful of the setting.
Exactly. And the article actually mentions wearing fashionable sneakers, so it's not about suppressing individuality or anything.
So it's more about understanding the context, like how clothing can communicate non-verbally. You wouldn't show up to a job interview in a swimsuit, right?
Exactly. Every setting has its own kind of unspoken code, and understanding that shows, well, a level of respect for the occasion, for the people around you.
Like you're signaling that you understand the purpose of the gathering. Like, I wouldn't wear a ball gown to a backyard barbecue.
Right. You're sending a message with what you wear. Intentionality. And speaking of intentionality, the article is very clear about phones. Off. No exceptions.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. No one wants to hear a ringtone during a sermon.
It's more than that, though, right? It's about being fully present. In a world of constant stimulation, it's so easy to get caught up in that digital whirlwind, even in places where we should be disconnecting.
I feel that. It's a real challenge these days. But the article makes a good point. Intentionally choosing to disconnect lets you be more receptive. You can engage with the experience on a deeper level.
It's like, would you be texting during a presidential address?
Probably not. So why do we struggle to give that same respect to, I don't know, a religious service?
I think it's about creating that mental space
Yeah.
for reflection, for connecting with something beyond the screen. Okay, ready for another etiquette tip.
Lay it on me.
This one might seem a bit more practical. Arrive early to church.
To get a good seat.
Well, yeah, maybe. But it goes beyond that. Think about the social aspects.
Arriving early gives you a chance to, connect with other people, build relationships.
It strengthens that sense of community we were talking about.
It's like the pre-show mingling you see at a concert or a play.
Exactly. Catching up, sharing anticipation, setting the tone for the experience. But in a religious setting, there's another layer to it, right?
Yeah, I think those connections are often rooted in, well, a shared belief system. It adds depth to the interaction.
You're not just making small talk, you're potentially discussing deeper things, seeking guidance, or just enjoying that sense of belonging.
I like that.
But-
And the article even mentions the joy of shared meals and fellowship, which again brings us back to community building.
Food has a way of bringing people together, breaking down barriers. It's not just sustenance, it's a symbol of, well, connection.
Totally. And in a religious context, those communal meals often have even more meaning, becoming rituals that connect people to their faith and to each other. like a family gathering.
Exactly. Where the food is more than just food, right?
Okay, on to something that really stood out to me. The article's emphasis on communication.
Open communication, I imagine.
Yeah. But it doesn't just focus on the positives. It warns that being too solitary can lead to negative thoughts. Interesting. Even make you vulnerable to the devil's whispers, it says.
Right. Now, putting aside personal beliefs for a second, there's some psychology there.
Yeah, we know that social isolation can be really damaging, right?
And strong connections, they contribute to a sense of purpose, of belonging. You build resilience. So even outside a religious context, human connection matters. Big time.
Absolutely. We need each other to learn, to grow, to navigate life's challenges. We're not meant to go through it alone.
Exactly. It's not just about asking for help when you're struggling. It's about actively building those relationships, sharing experiences, creating a network of people who can support you.
I like that. Building a network of support and inspiration. So, anything else in this article that jumped out at you?
This part really made me think. The article talks about approaching teachings with a soft heart, especially when they challenge your existing beliefs.
Hmm. Soft heart. Beautiful phrasing. What does that look like, though, in real life?
I think it's about being open to new ideas, even if they make you a little uncomfortable. Recognizing that we don't have all the answers.
Right. Approaching learning with humility and curiosity.
So it's not about blindly accepting everything, but engaging thoughtfully, even if it means confronting some uncomfortable truths about yourself or the world around you.
I love that. Being willing to learn and evolve. And the article also talks about honesty and humility, owning up to mistakes, seeking forgiveness.
Which, in a lot of faiths, ties into confession and redemption. But there's a bigger human truth there, too, I think.
Absolutely. We're all imperfect, capable of messing up. Admitting those shortcomings is key for growth and healthy relationships.
It's about letting go of that need to be right all the time,
Hmm.
embracing vulnerability. Okay, last one before we wrap up this part. The article is big on taking notes during sermons.
Wait, notes in church. That feels a little formal, doesn't it?
Yeah, it might seem that way at first, but it's about engaging with the material on a deeper level, not just passively listening, but actively learning.
It's about identifying those key takeaways, the stuff that resonates.
Are you a note taker? Just curious.
You know, I am. It helps me process information, solidify it in my mind. It's like I'm having a conversation with the speaker.
It's like turning spoken words into something tangible, something you can come back to later.
I like that. And you know, the article doesn't stop at just taking notes. It emphasizes reflecting on what you've learned, seeking clarification,
Yeah.
actively trying to apply it to your life.
Turning knowledge into action, making it real.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how, like, this simple act of note-taking can actually, like, mirror the process of spiritual growth. You know, paying attention, absorbing wisdom, then actually working to integrate those teachings into your life.
Knowledge is power, but only if you apply it. Something like that, right? But it's not about just memorizing religious doctrines. It's about using that knowledge to, I don't know, to become a better person, to make more thoughtful choices, to live a more meaningful life. But, we've been focused on these specific church guidelines, but I'm seeing some bigger themes here, things that go way beyond the church walls.
Yeah, you're right. It's like we're looking at this like microcosm of human interaction. These principles that guide us in, like navigating shared spaces, building community.
Exactly. Respect, being attentive, thoughtful communication, being open to learning and growing. These aren't just like religious ideas. They're the foundation of any healthy community, right?
And what's so cool is how these guidelines, even though they're coming from a religious perspective, they tap into the really basic human needs.
Belonging, purpose, connection, growth. Those are universal desires. We all crave them, whether we realize it or not.
Like, we're wired for connection, for meaning, for something that gives our lives purpose. And historically, religious institutions have provided a framework for that. But I think the key takeaway here is that those needs, they aren't exclusive to religion.
Absolutely. You can find that same sense of belonging and purpose in secular communities too, right?
Yeah.
Volunteer organizations, social clubs, even online groups where people share common interests. It's that same drive to connect, to be part of something bigger.
And I think this article, even though it's focused on church, it gives us some pretty good insight into how to build those elements in any community, creating an environment of respect, making people feel heard, valued, having a shared purpose where everyone feels like they're contributing.
And encouraging growth, both individually and as a group, creating a safe space to, challenge assumptions, learn from each other, evolve. But let's shift gears for a second. Talk about this concept of having a soft heart. It's such a lovely phrase. What does that actually mean in practice?
I don't think it's just about being like nice or agreeable. It's about approaching things with, I don't know, an openness, a willingness to be moved by what you encounter. It's about letting go of that need to be right all the time and like being okay with admitting when you don't know something, when you've messed up, when maybe your perspective is a bit limited.
Not suppressing your own opinions, but kind of like holding them lightly, knowing they might need to be revised or expanded as you learn more.
Exactly. It's about like remembering that learning is a lifelong thing. True growth often means stepping outside your comfort zone, confronting ideas that challenge you. And that can be tough, even unsettling sometimes.
It's like that saying, the only way to make sense of change is to plunge into it, move with it, join the dance.
Beautifully said. And I think that soft heart is what allows us to do that, to embrace the unknown, to dance with the uncomfortable and come out the other side transformed. But it's not just about personal growth. It's about how we interact with others, especially when there are disagreements, different viewpoints.
This is where things get tricky, especially now with so much polarization and division. It's so easy to get stuck in echo chambers, right? Surrounded by people who agree with you, dismissing anyone who thinks differently.
But if we want to like build bridges instead of walls, we got to learn to engage those different viewpoints. And I think the soft heart is like the key.
Approaching those conversations with genuine curiosity, not defensiveness, wanting to understand the other person's view, even if you don't agree.
And sometimes, when you really listen to someone else's perspective, you might realize that your own beliefs are like a bit too rigid. You might find yourself shifting your stance, seeing things in a new light.
It's about remembering that no one has all the answers. Learning is ongoing, and the best conversations often happen when you're open to being wrong, to being challenged.
It's that intellectual humility, being able to say, huh, I never thought of it that way. Tell me more. As we wrap up this part, I want to come back to this idea of like interconnectedness that came up earlier.
That our actions, attitudes, they all have a ripple effect impacting those around us. We're not just isolated individuals.
It's a humbling thought, but also empowering, because it means that even little acts of kindness, compassion, understanding, they matter. That by trying to live by those principles of respect and growth, we're not just improving our own lives, we're making the world better for everyone.
It's like that Dalai Lama quote, be kind whenever possible. It is always possible.
So let's carry these ideas with us. Be mindful of how we act, what we say, knowing we have the power to, uplift, inspire, connect, create positive change.
And maybe, just maybe, by exploring these church etiquette guidelines, we've uncovered some pretty profound lessons about life in general. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it's given you some new insights. Until next time, keep exploring. Back again.
Still diving deep into this idea of church etiquette, but I think we've uncovered something much bigger here.
Yeah, it's like a peek into human nature, social dynamics, the things that make communities work. Right. And as cool as all these guidelines are, they only matter if we can actually apply them to our lives, make them real.
So, let's take that dressing soberly idea. It was about church, but
Yeah.
that idea of, respect, choosing clothes that fit the occasion, that's everywhere.
Oh, totally. It's like our clothes send a message even if we don't realize it. Think about a job interview. What you wear says a lot about you.
Tons. Professionalism,
Yeah.
attention to detail, even if you get the company culture. It's
Yeah.
like you're talking before you even say a word.
Exactly. And it's not about being a fashion clone or anything. It's about reading the room, understanding what's expected and what message you want to send.
Right. Respect for the people you're with and the situation you're in. Okay, let's switch gears, something that's gotten tricky these days. Actually listening. The article was all about taking notes during sermons, but that applies to life too.
Oh, huge. It's about moving beyond just hearing. You got to be engaged, really absorb what's being said, connect with the person talking.
And this isn't just for meetings or lectures. It's for everyday conversations too, with friends, family, whoever. Those times when you have the chance to truly connect.
Put the phone down, quiet those mental distractions, and just focus. Listen with, everything you've got.
Totally. Ask questions. Reflect back what you heard. Let the person know you're really there with them. Their words mean something.
And it's amazing what happens when you do that, Truly listen. Not just to the words, but the feelings behind them, the stuff that's not said outright. That's where real understanding happens.
Connection. But here's where things get kind of tough. Being open to new ideas, even when they challenge what you believe.
This is the real test, right? It's so easy to just hang out with people who agree with you, read stuff that confirms what you already think, and just shut out anything different.
But if we want to grow, to actually
Yeah.
learn, we got to get out of those echo chambers,
Yeah.
engage with different viewpoints.
And that means approaching those conversations with curiosity, not like getting defensive right away. Try to understand where they're coming from, even if you disagree.
And sometimes, honestly, when you really listen to someone's viewpoint, you realize your own beliefs are like too narrow. You might end up changing your mind a little, expanding how you see
It's
things.
about admitting that none of us know everything. Learning never stops. And the best conversations happen when you're open to being wrong.
Right. To being challenged.
Hmm.
This humility thing, being able to say, never thought of it like that. Tell me more. Before we finish up completely, got to bring back this idea of like, we're all connected.
It's huge that our choices, what we do, what we say, it all ripples out, impacts other people more than we realize.
It's humbling, but it's also like empowering because it means even small things, kindness, compassion, just understanding each other, it makes a difference.
Like that quote, be kind whenever possible, it is always possible.
Right. Exactly. So as we, go about our day, let's keep that in mind. What we say, how we act, knowing we can lift people up, inspire them, connect with them, make things better.
And maybe by looking at these like church etiquette rules, we've learned some really big stuff about life. Thanks for being here on this deep dive with us. We hope you got something out of it. Until next time, keep exploring, keep thinking, and keep diving deep.